Let's get right to the Daily Rundown. First reads of the morning. Joining me now, NBC political reporter Domenico Montanaro. Dom, let's start with Mitt Romney in Ohio.
Well, Chris, Mitt Romney was out in Ohio yesterday, and he had given support earlier this year, back in June, to the Ohio collective bargaining rights law that went into effect, pushed by Governor John Kasich there. But yesterday was a little bit different tone, Chris.
Yeah, Dom, we've got some sound on that. Let's play that, come back and talk about it.
I'm not speaking about the particular ballot issues. Those are up to the people of Ohio, but I certainly support the effort of the governor to rein in the scale of government. I'm not terribly familiar with the two ballot initiatives, but I'm certainly supportive of the Republican Party's effort here.
Now, the problem with that, Domenico, was in June, on a Facebook post, he said he was supportive of these ballot initiatives. How much of this is a problem for Romney in that it plays into flip-flop? He takes one position one time, one position another time. A problem or a blip on the radar?
The other problem for Romney, he was standing on the steps of a place where they were making calls for support for this measure, according to our embed there, Garrett Hake. Yeah, it's a problem. His biggest vulnerability is this authenticity issue. And this is something that we saw with Hillary Clinton in 2007. That was one area where Democrats thought that they could, push on her with this illegal driver's license stuff from that debate in 2007. It wasn't exactly her answer that got her in trouble, but what happened over the next, over the rest of that debate with Chris Dodd and days later. So, this is something the Romney camp has to be aware of. They are. But Rick Perry went after him and hit him hard on that.
I was just going to say, Rick Perry not missing an opportunity. Here's what his communications director, Ray Sullivan, had to say. Mitt Romney's finger-in-the-wind politics continued today when he refused to support right-to-work reforms signed by Ohio Governor John Kasich, reforms Romney supported in June. Americans are tired of politicians who change their beliefs to match public opinion polls. So to your point, Dom, really getting right at that. I also wanted to talk about Rick Perry really on the move. We saw a flat tax speech yesterday. He's much more aggressive. He's hiring new staff. And he's got his first ad, a bio ad, in Iowa. Let's watch it, come back and talk about it.
Mm-hmm. As president, I'll create at least 2.5 million new jobs. And I know something about that. In Texas, we created over 1 million new jobs, while the rest of the nation lost over 2 million. I'll start by opening American oil and gas fields. I'll eliminate President Obama's regulations that hurt other sources of domestic energy, like coal and natural gas. That'll create jobs and reduce our reliance on oil from countries that hate America. I'm Rick Perry, and I approve of this message.
So, not surprising, Domenico, he starts off on jobs, what he did in Texas. How much of this do we expect? Is this the Rick Perry message for the next month and a half, or does he quickly turn it and go a little bit more negative on Romney?
And on energy, he went right to that crutch on energy, But look, he's talking about 2.5 million jobs. If you do the math on that over a presidency, that's only about 52,000 jobs a month. There's 14 million people out of work, so it doesn't make that big of a dent. And since October of 2010, we've had 1.5 million jobs created in this country. 3.7 million were lost before that because of the near financial meltdown. But 2.5 million jobs, probably a promise he can keep. But we asked today whether or not that's really bold, Chris.
Right, absolutely. And remember, thank you for mentioning the word bold, because Rick Perry mentioned it 3 times. Extremely bold, very bold, really trying, I think, to channel Herman Cain in a lot of ways with the 999 plan. Herman Cain always says how bold it is. Are we seeing, there's been a lot of coverage, Domenico, this is Rick Perry 2.0. He's restarting. New York Times poll out, he's at 6%. He's behind Newt Gingrich. He's behind Ron Paul. He's way behind Romney and Herman Cain. Is there time for a Rick Perry 2.0? Did he press the reset button too late?
Sure, of course there's time. The thing is, you mentioned earlier that he's on the move making all these hires. The one thing that's not on the move are his poll numbers, or maybe they're on the move but in the wrong direction. But the thing is, he has time. And in fact, if he wins Iowa, look, that's where the person who is going to be the alternate to Mitt Romney is probably going to come out of. If he wins Iowa, wins South Carolina, all of a sudden we're all going to be talking about the comeback kid. He's got his mojo back. So there's plenty of time, plenty of handshaking to do in Iowa, and he's got a ton of cash. He just went up with that, like we talked about, that first ad. He's going to blanket the airwaves with that. So, look, there's time, but he's got to get moving.
I was going to say, there's time, but there's not that much time. 69 days, and yes, I'm counting. I've got the calendar. I rip off a day every day we get closer to January 3rd. 69 days until the Iowa caucuses. I don't want to let you go, though, Dom, without talking about President Obama on The Tonight Show last night. Let's play a clip. We'll come back and talk about it.
Have you been watching the GOP debates?
I'm going to wait until everybody's voted off the island.
Really?
Once they narrow it down to one or two, I'll start paying attention.
Okay, so a very good line, but we know that this president is monitoring the race, right?
Of course they are, and of course he is. In fact, in October, earlier this month, September 31st, October, he spoke before the Human Rights Campaign and criticized the field for booing for a debate where a gay service member was booed. So of course they're paying attention. You know, it's a very fine line that presidents have to walk when they're running for re-election. They want to appear to be, you know, the president, not a politician, as we talked about earlier, but, you know, that's a very fine line. Of course he's in campaign mode while he's trying to say he's not.
Domenico Montanaro, political reporter for NBC and co-author of one of my first reads every morning. First read, I got it on my BlackBerry right before we came on the air. If you haven't checked it out already today, do it. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks.